Welcome to the podcast. Súbele volumen. Conversation with the people who were with me. In the world TV. Carlos tonight. Historias de un reportero. Carlos tonight. Dale que viene lo bueno.
Hey everybody, bienvenidos and welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for listening and for watching. This week, I want to introduce you to Anastasia Vladychynska, a certified customer experience consultant and one of the many people forced to leave Ukraine after Russian forces invaded the country almost a month ago. Anastasia, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you are safe and doing well despite the circumstances. Before we begin, how are you?
I'm okay today. Yeah.
Great. Good to hear. Through your company, you've worked with top tier brands such as McDonald's and Visa and other companies around the world to reinvent their employee and customer experience. This is the work that you were doing in Ukraine when one day you just were woken up by alarms and missiles. Can you describe that morning for us?
Yes. I was on a business trip. So it's supposed to be, they call it a western part of Ukraine, but it's kind of in between Kiev and western part of Ukraine. So I was on a business trip, all ready to start, wake up and start the thing that I'm doing, customer experience workshops for huge dealership, auto dealership. And I was there with my colleague and her son, who is a teenager, and he was in Kiev by himself. He called her and he said, they have started bombarding. And then immediately after he said it, I heard the roaring sounds of airplanes. But when you're sleeping, you're thinking, okay, it could be just an airplane, right?
Right.
But then airplanes, and then boom, boom, 2 explosions. And I woke up, and it's interesting how the mind works in those moments. Your mind cannot believe this has started in your country. Yeah. So you won't believe it. But I woke up, I put on my makeup, my clothes, and I was ready to go to do a workshop.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and then only when the client called and said, Anastasia, we have to cancel everything because people are fleeing, people are leaving the country. Only then I realized, I got on my car and drove off. So
before that morning, were you already prepared? Because there were, I know, some rumblings between Russia and Ukraine.
That's a very good question. It was a period of uncertainty because, of course, we had all the information about the troops being so close to the borders. But again, nobody could believe it would be so massive. We thought, okay, he would probably come with the troops to the eastern part of Ukraine, and that on the eastern part of Ukraine, we've had war for 8 years now. Right. So nobody had this idea. But, I think I felt something because when I was preparing for my business trip, I told my husband, you know what, I'm going to grab more stuff this time. So instead of having just a little suitcase, I have a bigger now. Yeah, I had a feeling that something would go wrong.
So how much time did you have when you heard the missiles and you got that call saying, we need to cancel this meeting? Well,
it was about, maybe 40 minutes. And then I immediately got into my car with my colleague and we drove to Lviv, which is very close to Polish border. Mm-hmm. And it's supposed to be safe. Even by today, it is still safe. So Everybody from Ukraine flees to Lviv. So we went there, and again, her son was still in Kiev. Mm. So we drove with her, and then after that, that's a whole different story how she went back to Kiev to pick him up. But
So is it true that just women and children are allowed to leave Ukraine?
That's true. I don't remember exactly when they enforced that, but only women with kids, and then men only after 60. So my dad, he could go. And when you're leaving the country, what you see is rows and rows of cars with women being drivers And then you would see one woman being a driver, and then she would have her girlfriend, because it's scary to just leave the country by yourself, right?
Yeah.
And then 4, 5, 6 kids in that same car. So yeah,
Wow.
it's really sad. Or sometimes, if you're lucky, you would see a car with an older man driving, and he would be driving his daughter or his, some of the relatives. And
Did your
the kids.
husband have to stay behind, or did he go with you?
So I am lucky because my husband is not a Ukrainian. So he was, if you're not Ukrainian, you can go. So I'm lucky he went with me, but I think I'm like the only one whose here was the husband.
Wow. So in the last week, I met several Afghan families who were forced to leave their country, who have relocated here in the U.S. For those who have never met someone in your situation, can you describe for us the difficulties you've experienced so far and the uncertainty that lies ahead?
I think it's best described. I have the analogy of you have this burning idea on your mind. I have to get to a safe place, right? Mm-hmm. So you're doing whatever you need to just leave the country. And you have the adrenaline because you have the goal. Once you cross the border, and I've seen so many people doing that, and even myself, once you cross that border, you start weeping because you feel as if you're somewhere on the border of a huge ocean and you have no idea where you would go. You have no plan. You have no idea where you would stay, where your kids would go to school. So these are, I guess the worst question for all of us who have fled is what's going to happen tomorrow. And that's the question, like in my group was the girls, we are not allowed to ask that question because it freezes your mind. So simple things like you need to find a place to live, you need to find a job, you need to find a place, a school for your kids, and then food, and then you need some money for food. Everything becomes super simple.
How difficult, in speaking to these women, how difficult was it for them to leave behind some of their relatives?
Oh, I think this is the worst part, just because there are different women out there, right? Some women are used to earning themselves and providing for families. Some women have always relied on their husbands, right? So for them to leave their main person behind and then to be like here in this open world is very hard. Also, what's hard, and I try not to think about that, but seriously, we don't know if or when we are going to see our relatives again.
Right.
So that will be, that's the hardest thing.
And these are the women that you met when you were traveling to safety, right?
No, these are the women, these are my girlfriends. Okay. And my girlfriends are either past customers, or I also used to teach at the business school. So these will be either customers or former students.
So many of the women that you're referring to have children, correct?
Yes.
How are you helping them get back on their feet?
Everything they need. So sometimes it just happens that they would text me, Anastasia, I only have hotel booked for 2 nights. and then you just have to pay for their hotel, right? Sometimes if they are in the country, because of my work, and I've done work internationally, I am blessed to have people almost in every possible country, at least in those countries where they go to. So I would connect them with the people I know, because again, there's a huge question of safety for the ladies. I know there are huge groups that are helping Ukrainians everywhere in every country, but we are having some bad news, like for example, from Germany, where women have started to disappear. So that's why what I do, I connect them only with the people I know in different countries that I could trust. And then they either provide them with the accommodation, or if that's not possible, I pay for their hotels, or if that's not possible, and they don't have any money, I'll just transfer the money to their card so that they could buy food. But also, again, because I have connections everywhere, I ask my community in the States and then in Europe, guys, do you have any jobs, remote jobs or offline jobs? Mostly it's right now they have a huge need in remote jobs because nobody knows where they will actually settle in, right? So I'm collecting the needs from my other friends in different countries, and they would say, okay, I need a marketing person, I need a VA, and then I find, and I post it in my groups, and then I find somebody who would be a perfect fit, and they connect. So that's what we did. Yeah. And then a nice thing also is that people want to help. So like yesterday we had a wonderful call with was a therapist, and she just volunteered her time, and she helped the girls also to go through that healing process, because that's also mentally it's huge. It's a big trauma.
And how are you finding the strength and the motivation to continue on every day? You're trying to run a business. You're also helping your girlfriends.
Well, if I'm frank with you, it is much easier to help somebody else than to help yourself. Because it's easy. Somebody texts you, Anastasia, I need this and this, and you immediately, you start helping, right?
Right.
So I think that the need of my girlfriends kind of, gives me the power to go on. And also when I see those beautiful cases, when my other friends would help these friends and then they connect, that gives me so much enthusiasm and power. But that's a tricky question, because it gives me strength for them, but for myself, I don't think I have it. I just pretend I have it for them.
Yeah. And do you feel safe now? Like where you are right now?
Now, yes. We are hosted by a good friend. It's funny, she used to be my boss years ago, like probably 15 years ago. We have not talked since then, but then when everything happened, she was insisting that we come and stay with her. So yeah, it's safe. I feel safe. I feel good.
So hopefully once this conflict is over, do you have plans to return to Ukraine?
That's another super hard question. Everyone wants to return. And that's also something that I would like European and other communities to rethink, that the word refugee has some bad stereotypes, don't you think? It's like you probably think that people would come and they would take up your jobs, or they would, even worse, they would live out of welfare and would not, contribute into the country where they are. Now, my girlfriends and Ukrainian women, Ukrainian people are not like that at all. Mm-hmm. So, So I forgot the question, Carlos. Where was I going with that?
Do you have any plans to return to Ukraine?
Plans. And everybody is dreaming, believing they will go back,
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yes.
And it's important to note that you're not asking for money, right? I saw that on social media that you said you feel uncomfortable taking people's money. Tell me how you plan to help, or how can people help?
Yeah. And again, it's just me. I'm not trying to say that you cannot go and directly donate. There are so many NGOs in Ukraine that you could go and do that, right? But me personally, I am a hard worker. So what I've started doing, I'm using my expertise. So things that I know, everything around client experience, client retention, I've started doing those webinars where people come and they pay as much as they want. I know the price for those webinars, and because I've done them before, but I don't even have a set pricing. I said, whatever you feel comfortable with, you just, you pay for the webinar, you show up for the webinar, you get information that you would need in your own business. And this money I'm going to use as the SOS fund for my girlfriends. Mm-hmm.
Wow. And you're hosting that every Wednesday, I believe?
Every Wednesday, yeah. So far, it's every Wednesday. I've only planned 5 because, I don't even know if I'm going to stay here in this country, or will I be able to stay here. So far, yes, until, I believe it's until the first week of April. Mm-hmm.
Wow, okay. What do you want Americans in the world to know about this war, about the people that are stuck in the middle of it, like yourself?
Yeah. Well, of course, I'd love to have the skies closed for us, for Ukraine. This is the hardest, and you probably have seen it everywhere on social media. Every Ukrainian is begging to close the sky. By being, educated, I also understand what that would mean, or what countries think that would mean for them. So I'm not, I'm not just looking at one part of the whole thing. So I do think, and I strongly have this message inside, and it's not just for Americans, it's for everybody, that we all need to rethink the material things we have, okay? And also the notion of safety that we have connected to material things. So, because here's what I mean. We feel safe when we have a good job, right? When we have a place to live, a house or apartment, and when we have some savings. 3 things that give us feeling of safety. Now, from my own experience, you would never believe it, you would never think of it, but one morning you can wake up and in just a second, all of that is lost. You only have your suitcase and a folder with documents. That's it. Okay. Wow. So rethinking what's important in life and what isn't. And I know this, we've all heard this so many times before, right? But now it's applied in the real life. And second thing that I also feel very strongly is about building relationships. Because seriously, when everything is lost, as I remember, I told you that it's only my network that has helped my girlfriends and me personally, right? So when everything is lost, the only thing you can rely upon is your network and your community and your relationships with people. And it could be a hard notion for a business owner, because when business owner, entrepreneurs, when you think about the word network, it's a net and then it's work, right? So we almost have this on the back of our minds that we're expanding our network to somehow use it in the future. And that's why I'm sure, Carlos, you're receiving thousands of messages, private messages where somebody will say, hi, why don't you join my Facebook group? And you'll be like, do you know who I am, what I'm selling? I mean, what's my business is about, right? Like, you want that connection first. That's why it's not in this world, cold selling like this. We feel it, and we almost want to hide from it. So 2 things, the importance of network and the unimportance of material things.
How long have you been doing your consulting work, and do you plan on continuing to do that even during this conflict?
So I was in corporate for many years doing the same thing, but then I started my own thing in 2013, I believe. So that would be 8 years now. 9 years now. I would love to continue doing that, because that's, and I'm certified in the US, so it's not like I only had some Ukrainian schooling. I'd love to continue doing that, but if it comes to the point when I'm not able to do that for any reason, I'll just take up a normal job. It's going down in your mind, but you don't have a choice.
So many of us have seen what's been going on television, but you actually have lived it and experienced it. Is it what we see on TV?
It depends on what you're seeing on TV, because if you're seeing any Russian-backed channels, then just know that the propaganda, the scale of propaganda is scary. I do have relatives in Russia, like very close relatives. When they call us, they tell us, okay, you just wait. Everything is going to be fine. Putin is going to save you. And we're like, from what? So, yes. But if you're, even for me, always BBC, CNN have always been channels for, for like a compass. You can trust those. So if you're watching those news, then yeah.
I don't know if you're in contact with your family on a regular basis in Russia, but I know the economy there is bad. How are they holding up?
So I have some very highly educated intellectual friends in Russia as well. So those people understand the whole, the whole gravity of the situation.
Yeah.
One of my friends is a stylist, a personal stylist, and all of those brands starting with Chanel and ending with H&M have left. So she's out of work, right? Then another friend is in travel and tourism. Her workers has stopped. So those people who are, who have education, who know what's going on in the world, who travel, they understand the gravity, and they are just, because the ruble went like 2-3 times up.
Yeah.
That hurts. But then people who wouldn't be, who wouldn't be that educated, they would just make jokes. We are fine, we're going to survive. So it depends, as usual,
Yeah. Wow. I was going to ask you, so I know that you've been documenting a lot of it on social media, and updating your followers. Can people connect with you there?
Oh yeah, please do. I'm more active on Facebook than on anywhere else. And but on Facebook, definitely.
What is your hope for people who connect with you on Facebook, that watch your updates on what's going on in Ukraine?
That's a good question. I would hope that they know the truth. That's number one. Number two, that sometimes there are the worst words you can say during a war and the best words. So the worst words would be something like, I hope you guys are doing fine and safe. That's like the worst. That's not any kind of support.
Right.
The best is when people I don't even know, message me and say, Anastasia, what can I do for Ukraine? And I could give them, list of NGOs or even my friends or, whatever you want to apply here. And it's not just about the money. Some people share their knowledge, like this therapist. She's from New York, a beautiful, wonderful therapist that donated her time for the girls, right? Yeah. So I'd say, number one, know the truth. Number two, if you want to support, then, don't just say those empty words.
Right. All right. Anastasia, thank you for coming on the podcast today, and sharing your story with us. Be safe. God bless you and the people of Ukraine.
Thank you, Carlos, for doing this. I do appreciate it.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Anastasia, for taking the time to talk with me today. This episode was written and produced by yours truly, Carlos Correa. My theme was by Skin Gales. You can find more information on the podcast, see upcoming guests, and check out past episodes. That's carlostonight.com.